New shoes, new shoes, new shoes. Hey, what's good, what's good, what's good, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. I'm LotusAsakura, the one who never knows best, and today I got some new shoes. Now, Lord knows the last thing I needed is new shoes, but what can I say? I might got me just a tiny little bit of an addiction. It just is what it is. We ain't really got to talk about it, but let's talk about it. As y'all know, your boy Lotus collection buys a lot of shoes. Now, I don't do a whole lot of reselling, and most of the shoes I buy with intentions on keeping them and wearing them. But when you have this many shoes, certain ones you just don't get around to. Sometimes I have an excess of certain colorways, and as y'all know, with the recent release of the white cement Jordan 4s, I ended up with 3 pairs of those. Now, I didn't want 3 pairs of that shoe for myself. I mean, don't get me wrong, you know what I'm saying? If I really had it like that, I wouldn't mind keeping 3 pairs of those on ice, because to me, that's one of the greatest sneakers of all time. However, it wasn't my intention to keep all those. So I had those sitting in the back, some other stuff that was piling up, and I decided to go to one of my local shops, which if y'all into this sneaker thing, y'all already know there's plenty of like resale shops, consignment shops, and everything like that all over the place. And so I actually have a homie who has his own shop. Now, I'm not going to disclose his name or the shop because y'all don't really need to know where I be. But with that being said, I do got a couple of new pickups. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So like I said, as y'all saw in one of my recent videos, I ended up with 3 pairs of the white cement Jordan 4s. Now, I didn't need 3 pairs of those shoes. However, I did want at least 1 pair for myself. So I ended up with 2 size 11.5s and 1 size 9.5. What I ended up doing was I ended up trading in 2 of those pairs for a size 13 and those for my pops. It was recently his birthday as well as Father's Day, a little belated gift for him. And then for myself, well, we went ahead and got a little size swap. So as you can see, now that we finally got the focus, Air Jordan 4 Retro Summit White Fire Red in that size 11 or women's 12.5, I guess, as well. So like I said, I ended up with 2 size 11.5s, and historically I have been buying most of my sneakers in a size 10.5, some shoes in a size 11 or even an 11.5 depending, because if you have enough shoes, you know all these shoes do not fit the same. You know, your mileage may vary, different models and different brands it's a bit of a mixed bag, you know what I'm saying? And I wanted a size 11 in these shoes, but I didn't manage to get those on release. That being said, people are asleep on this shoe, man, much to my surprise, but I guess I really can't be too surprised. But it's like, stuff is only hot when it's hot, and stuff only resells if it resells, you know what I'm saying? Like, for whatever reason, a lot of people out there in the world, they need somebody else to tell them that something is fire in order for them to think that it's cool. They need something to have a certain amount of value attached to it in someone else's opinion in order for them to attach a certain amount of value to it, which I never really understood. I've always thought stuff was dope because I thought it was dope. I always was willing to pay a certain amount of money because I'm willing to do it, not because someone else is willing to do it, you know what I mean? And so for me, this is one of the greatest sneakers ever made, easily one of the best Jordans, and certainly one of the best Jordan 4s, so I needed them. And I ended up with 2 size 11.5s, which I tried on one of those pairs and I could probably have rocked it, but honestly, they were a little bit bigger than what I really wanted, so I ended up swapping out. We don't really got to go into this shoe into too much detail. Y'all know what the white cement 4s look like, you know what I'm saying? Y'all have all seen this shoe by now. And here's what I'll say, man. Like I said, what this shoe is worth don't matter to me whatsoever. Glad I got mine. We'll be rocking these for sure. But these are super easy to get right now. They've restocked a couple of times. They basically are retail anywhere that you find them. And to the point where like it makes me want to go get another pair, but I got another pair, but maybe swap out for another pair for me to keep. But right now I'm just gonna hold them and sit on them because stuff like this only appreciates in value over time, right? Obviously there's an initial dip right now where they were selling for however much they were selling for the last few months. Prior to release and at launch, they were still selling for close to 3. Now you can basically find them anywhere and everywhere for retail. However, a shoe this iconic, this classic, this great of a colorway, and honestly, this is good of quality. Like, I know it's got like that thick polyurethane like coating, I guess, on the leather, but it's a decent leather in the best shape and honestly the best retro ever of the white cement 4, in my opinion. Don't be shocked if in a year or 2 from now, this is a $300-400+ sneaker. Same thing goes with like the Bread 4s, which I got back there, which matter of fact, we can go grab those. So right here, we actually have the 2019 Bread Retro Jordan 4, which my pair is still super crispy. And I actually took these with me to the shop because I was potentially letting them go just to replace them with a bigger size. I was speaking earlier about sizes. These are actually size 10.5, and don't ask me, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going through the whole process of the shipping these and everything out, but I was willing to part with them if my boy was willing to pay the premium for the price just so I could replace them, you know, what I wanted. He was like, yeah, they worth that, it's just too rich for my blood to try to sell them for a profit. And I was like, yeah, it's all good. But yeah, man, when these dropped in 2019, they were pretty easy to get a hold of, and they were only selling for about $260 to $280 at most. You see what these are selling for nowadays? Similarly, the reimagined black metallic Jordan 5s. Have you seen how the price has gone up on those? These classic, like iconic, like OG colorways, they don't normally sit at these low prices. Stuff like this that has always been hot, that's always been dope, that people want, it's gonna go up. So I expect for the White Cement 4 to be one of those sneakers where a year from now, 2 years from now, definitely 3-4 years from now, this is going to be a very sought after shoe, especially an all white shoe like this. You know what I mean? People always want like a crisp, classic white shoe. And also white shoes, they get dirty easy, they get dogged out fast, and then they start to yellow. So when the clean pairs start drying up, value is only gonna go up more and more. So yeah, I got another pair of the White Cement 4s. I'm down to 2 pairs now from my 3, and now I have one that's at a size 11.5, and a size 11. But yeah, so we got the White Cement 4s, but I got another pickup. What's in this bag right here? You can low-key see it through the bag. Y'all recognize that box? Y'all recognize that box? That look familiar at all? Y'all know what that is? So this is a shoe that I've had previous retros of, but don't currently own, and I kind of want it back in the collection. The homie ended up having a super duper clean pair show up in his shop, and well, like I said, I don't need it, but I needed it. If you collect sneakers, you already know what type of box this is. This right here is, of course, a Jordan 11 box. And if I can get the camera to go ahead and focus on that size tag for the one time, you'd be able to see that we have the Air Jordan 11 Retro White Black Concord. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Don't you already have the Concords? Matter of fact, low key, don't I see the Concords right there? Well, since you asked, no, actually, these are the Gratitude Jordan 11s, which these came out 2 years ago, something like that, which they're very nice. I like them quite a lot, and they're very similar, but they're not quite the same. Now, in the past, I have owned multiple pairs of the 2011 retro of the Concord 11, but I don't actually own any of those anymore. I had a crispy, icy pair of those that I recently sold because the sole started separating, as tends to happen with some of these shoes with age. And I just didn't feel like fixing it myself, so I sold them on eBay to somebody who was probably very happy to receive such a clean pair for an older retro. And all it would have taken was a little bit of glue and some elbow grease to really get those back situated. But in this box right here, we have the 2016 retro of the Concord Jordan 11. If I can go ahead and pull back the paper. Oh boy, yeah, you see the days is on ice, and I know you see me shining. Don't hate. But yes, sir, in that good old size 11, we do have the most recent retro of the Concord Jordan 11. Now, here's what I will say. When it comes to the cut, the patent leather and everything like that, obviously the ice, I like these quite a lot. Now, I will say that when it comes to Jordan 11s, I was never a big fan of when they started putting the 45 on the back. And I know that Mike himself did wear some that had 45 on the back, and it's an homage to that. And when he wore the 45 jersey and everything like that, in that brief stint during that season. But I just feel like the 23 looks better. It's more iconic and everything. But I mean, you know, it used to be something that like really turned me off, but I really don't mind it as much anymore. I do still prefer the 23, but this isn't too bad. I know the most recent retro of the Space Jams also is like that as well, which they did have a pair of Space Jams in, and then I inquired about them and I just didn't follow through. And yeah, they got away and they went to somebody else, and I was like, all right, bro, I need them Concords because I miss my Concords dearly. But yeah, you see them super duper crispy coke white, you know what I'm saying? You see the ice, and I actually have my own indoor setup for restoring shoes and like clearing up icy soles, removing oxidization. So I will throw these in there for one little session just to freshen them up even more. But I mean, as you see, they really don't need it, but I can probably make these look back to factory with just a little bit of work, you feel me? But yeah, man, the Concord 11, one of the greatest sneakers ever made. Again, one of the most classic and iconic Jordans. And I'm just a sucker for those. Like all the OG like classic colorways, those are all some of my favorite J's. Carmine 6s, Concord 11s, Bread 4s, Black Cement 3s, you know what I'm saying? I really like all the OG colorways of sneakers. And again, I don't really know what it is about it. Maybe it's just like seeing Mike rock them in game and the pictures and the posters and stuff, or I don't know. These are just the ones that appeal to me the most. And Jordan 11s have become one of my favorite silhouettes. And I've always liked the Jordan 11. But growing up, I don't know if it was like one of my absolute favorites, but at this point, I think it's like a top 3 for me. And I don't know about y'all, but like what I consider my favorite kind of always rotates. The number one has always been the same. Jordan 1s, that's my favorite sneaker. You know what I'm saying? That's always been the case since I was a teenager. But you know, 2 through 5, like those, it kind of just always changes. Right now, the way I'm feeling, I think it's got to be like 1s, 11s, and maybe 6s. I don't know. My Carmines, I be wanting to rock those every day. I'm not gonna lie. Actually, I did just wear them a couple of days ago. Let me go ahead and get this other shoe out. You see, beautiful, beautiful condition. And in case you're wondering what the price tag was for these bad boys, it was cheaper than you think. I actually managed to get these for a good old $220, man. $220, which I think is an incredible price to get these OG in box in practically brand new condition. I mean, you see how clean they still are. Now, here's my thing as well. I have a theory that next year we're going to see the retro of some Jordan 11 colorways, including potentially the Concords and or the Space Jams. The reason I feel that way is because next year would be 2026, which would make it the 30th year anniversary of the Jordan 11. The original 11s came out in 1996. So you had the Breads, the Concords, the Space Jams. Well, actually, Space Jams never came out in 96. Mike wore the black Concords. It was actually a Concord 11, but it was black. And then the Space Jams never actually officially came out until the year 2000, which, by the way, I do actually have. Ta-da! You feel me? So this right here is actually the original release of the Space Jam Jordan 11. So in the movie Space Jam, the sneaker that Michael Jordan is actually wearing, people think it's these, but it's actually a pair of Concords, but they're just black instead of white. So what that means is that the Jumpman, both on the ankle and then on the tongue, as well as the pods, they were actually purple. But I guess just due to, like, you know, technological limitations back then, when he wore them in the movie, it looked more blue than purple, whether that was the color grading or just, you know, again, just the technology limitations, whatever the case is. And that shoe never actually released. Now, there are like samples or PEs or whatever that exists out there somewhere. Whether those are the ones that Michael wore or whatever, those do exist, but they never released to the general public until the year 2000, where they actually brought the sneaker out, and they were then dubbed the Space Jam because he wore them in Space Jam. And actually, an interesting little note about this release, if you guys didn't know, is that on the tongue, right, Jordan 11s, they have on the third lace loop this little tag right here, and it looks like some sort of Greek lettering, but actually, if you hold the shoe to the side, it's written vertically. It says Jumpman Jordan. But on the Space Jams, I don't know if I'll be able to get it to focus. Oh, there we go, we got it. It actually says Jumpman Jam, and it's the only release of the Space Jam I think that says that. The other ones are all say Jumpman Jordan. That being said, 1996 was the initial release of the Jordan 11 and of the Concords and some of those OG colorways like the Breads or the Playoffs, if you want to call them that, as well as the Columbias, which I guess we call the Legend Blues now. But 2026, 30 years, I feel like that's going to be, you know, a perfectly valid reason for them to bring back some of these colorways. So I'm expecting either the Concord 11 or the Space Jam 11 or both to make a return. And I would really appreciate that. And again, I'm mad at myself for not jumping on the Space Jams when they popped up, because not only is this pair from the year 2000, you know, and I would like a crispy pair, which don't get me wrong, these are still pretty clean. They're a little bit dusty from sitting in my closet. They're still pretty clean. They're in decent condition, but obviously they're pretty yellow. I would like an icy pair. And also, I don't know how I can get that to show up, but my pair is midsole separating and outsole separating. And I just don't think I'm ever going to get around to fixing it myself. And for what it costs to get these types of repairs, I just don't know if it's really worth it to me personally. So as much as I love and appreciate the sneaker, and as much as I, you know, care about the history and everything like that, I might put these up for sale at some point soon. Also, they're size 10 and a half, and I've been replacing almost all of my size 10 and a half sneakers in my collection with a size 11, just because I feel like I've been needing that extra room lately. So yeah, if it happens, you heard it here first. If the Space Jams or the Concords come out next year, I called it. I tend to do that often where I anticipate a retro, but you know, if it doesn't happen, then it doesn't happen. It is what it is. I got these Concords. What I'm going to do with these, I really don't know, but I'm sure I'll get another pair of Space Jams at some point in the future. You know what I mean? It's one of them shoes where I just feel like, and when you collect Jordans, the Space Jams is just like a must, I feel like, you know what I mean? So I guess I say that about like all the OG colorways and stuff, you know what I mean? But yeah, man, very excited to have this collection. And I'm sure you're wondering, okay, like you showed us, you picked these up and you got the gratitudes. Like what's the point in having both? Like what's even different about them? To all my fellow sneakerheads out there, I probably don't have to explain anything to you, but you know, to the casual, to the layman, to just the regular person, I'm sure these look like the exact same sneaker. And there's some very slight, subtle differences. So I guess to point it out, right? For one, the Gratitude Jordan 11 is actually leather, if I can actually get that to show up. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and turn the light down a little bit, because even though, you know what I'm saying, it's So this right here, as you can see, is the Gratitude Jordan 11, and it looks extremely similar to the Concord, right? White midsole, white upper, black patent leather, black around the ankle. But as you look closer, there are some very subtle, but you know, to collector, obvious differences. Number one being the outsole. On the Gratitude Jordan 11, it has a much more milky, kind of creamy golden outsole. Now this is even more prominent on my pair because this is actually a pair from overseas. I picked these up while I was in Japan back in December, and the Asia release of the shoe has a even creamier outsole than what the American release has for some reason. I guess they were just made in separate factories. It is what it is. That might sound sketchy to some of y'all, but if you've done your research, you know that is the case. Trust me, ain't nothing fugazi over this way. Anyway, that being said, it's a little bit more translucent on the overseas pair, or I guess on the stateside pairs. But even then, the stateside pairs will end up looking more like this with time and wear anyway. That being said, you got leather on the upper of the Gratitudes, and you got the white mesh on the actual Concords. You have the difference in the outsole colors. So you have the translucent blue icy outsole on the Concords, and then the milky sole on the Gratitudes. Also the pods on the bottom, black on the Gratitudes, and it's that Concord purple, which might look a little bit more blue on camera right now, on the actual Concords, thus dubbing them the Concord for the Concord purple. Then you got a black Jumpman on the ankle of the Concords, whereas you have this gold. Is this even really metal? It feels, I don't really know what this material is. I don't think it's quite metal, but it's something. You have like this gold Jumpman though on the ankle of the Gratitudes, as you can see, as well as a gold 23 on the back. And other releases of the Concord 11 also featured a 23 on the back, but as I stated, with this release, it actually features the 45. Now let me know which one you're feeling more between the Gratitude Jordan 11 and the Concord. I think for me personally, I really don't know. I like them both. I like them both a lot. I feel like I kind of want to lean toward the Concord because again, it's just more classic. That's just what I really know and love. But I mean, even these are based off of and are basically like a soft retro of the Jordan 11 DMP, which released back in 2006 alongside the black and gold Jordan 6, aka the DMP Jordan 6, the Defining Moments pack. Which these are different from those as well because those, they featured a more translucent outsole. This wasn't metal, I don't believe. And then, you know, it did have the mesh upper, not the leather upper. So it was still basically like the same colors with the black, white, and gold and everything. But it was just a little bit closer to the Concord. And then this is like almost like a reimagining, I guess, if you want to say. It's not from the reimagined series, but almost a reimagining of the DMP Jordan 11. But yeah, so everywhere where there's normally Concord, there's either black or gold on the shoe. And I think they're both great. And you might be saying like, what's the point of having both? Because that's just how I am. That's just how some of us sneaker collectors are. These subtle differences make it a completely different shoe in my opinion. And even just outfit wise, there's just certain shoes or just certain fits where like I'd wear one and not the other. I mean, even the outfit that I got on right now, like if I was to pick between the two, I'd easily wear the Gratitudes, but I probably wouldn't have thrown on the Concords just because I feel like the little hits of purple, even though it's not that big of a deal, I would just put on something else, you know what I'm saying, as opposed to wearing these, even though it would be fine. But with the gold, since I'm wearing kind of like gold, beige, earth tone kind of colors, I would throw these on, you know what I'm saying? Now I wore the Rookie of the Year Jordan 1 today, not these, but these wouldn't look bad either, in my opinion. Is it excessive? Is it redundant? I'm not even gonna sit here and argue with you and say that it isn't. I'm just merely explaining my mindset. And also it's my money, I'm a grown ass man, I do what I want, you know what I'm saying? I don't gotta explain myself, but I'm just doing my best to make it make sense as much as I can to those of you who it might not make any sense to. And if you're not convinced or it sounds silly to you, then it just is what it is, and we're just gonna have a different opinion on that, you get me? All right, so it's the next day and we back. And if you remember earlier in the video, I said that I actually have a complete indoor setup for, you know, reversing oxidization, removing yellowing and everything like that, whether it be from, you know, rubber midsoles, toe caps, outsoles, icy outsoles, all that stuff. And these Concords were already pretty clean, but I wanted them to look as pristine as possible. So I threw them in a setup overnight and go ahead and take a look at them bad boys now. Just, yeah. They pretty much look DS now. You know what I mean? They're pretty much back to complete dead stock condition. Like I ain't gonna lie, you see the patent leather shining, icy sole glistening. Yeah, these now it feels even more like I already feel like the price that I paid was pretty much a steal, but that's pretty much the icing on top. Sorry, I bumped the microphone there, but yeah, man, you know what I'm saying? Back to factory on it. Yeah. With that being said, I'm very happy to add these to the collection. I missed my Concords a lot, and part of the reason why I bought these, because even though I do like these and I did want these were kind of my Concord replacement to some extent because I was still kind of sick behind selling my 2011 pair. But now that I got these, I'm happier than ever because now I got them both. You know what I'm saying? Need a new pair of Space Jams. but maybe we'll get those next year. Anyway, that's gonna do it for today's video. Y'all let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Hit this video with a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you haven't already so you can stay tuned for all awesome content up and I'm bringing you. With all that being said, that's pretty much all I have today. Remember, nothing can happen to you swing the bat. Later.